Welcome to the Apex Social Podcast. I'm Susan Acey. I'm the founder of Apex Social, and we are supporting care professionals, host families, children with all abilities in the United States, Australia, and in Europe.
Welcome, I'm Maren, and I'm the host of the Apex Social Podcast. I'm excited to take you on a journey to learn more about Apex Social and our mission. Welcome to our Apex Social Podcast. My name is Maren, and I am honored to have Meghan here today because Meghan is going to share some useful insights and facts with us about Thanksgiving.
Awesome. Yeah. So, hi, Maren. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Meghan Longo, and I am one of Apex's Directors of Care and Development, or ACD for short, and I work with the National Capital Region.
Amazing. So, can you tell us a little more about your role?
Yeah. So, as an ACD with Apex, I am basically our on-the-ground support services person in the National Capital Region. So that includes Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I am a Maryland native and I went to school just outside of DC and now I live in Virginia. So I'm super familiar with the area and I really get to be the point of contact and the person who can really support our care professionals throughout their year here in the US and support our host families throughout the time that they are working with a care professional with Apex. So really, I get to be the person that really just helps make sure everything runs smoothly, helping with support services, helping people get connected with different resources in the area.
Yes, very good. And you're born and raised in the United States, like you said already. And today we're going to talk a little bit about your Thanksgiving experience and one of the most liked and celebrated holidays in the United States. So the celebration of Thanksgiving is not just in the United States, also Canada or the Netherlands, but also Guinea and Liberia are celebrating Thanksgiving. But we're going to focus on the history of the United States because our care professionals and family are most here in the United States. Australia is also celebrating Thanksgiving, but just in one town because the pilgrims from England, went to Australia. So basically everything started with the pilgrims coming to the United States. Oh, one thing. If you think about a holiday in Germany, the closest one to Thanksgiving is a harvest fest too. It's called Erntedankfest, and we celebrate Erntedank at the first Sunday of October. So I bet like all our care professionals, or most of our care professionals, know this Christian's holiday. And yes, let's talk about some insights and facts.
Yeah, so Thanksgiving originated as a celebration for the first successful harvest that the Pilgrims had after they came over on the Mayflower to Plymouth Rock, which is where they settled in the original 13 colonies. So the Mayflower was the first boat of pilgrims to come and settle here in the US. And so they landed right around the beginning of winter. And their first winter was actually really difficult. Most of the settlers did not survive. And so come spring, when they were trying to plant their crops, they didn't really know anything about the area. They didn't know how to grow crops in the area. They didn't know what crops grew in the area. And so we saw that it was actually one of the first and only instances of peace between the indigenous peoples and the settlers. There was an alliance formed between the Wampanoag tribe and the English settlers, as facilitated by Squanto, who is a very notable indigenous person that we hear a lot about in like our textbooks and things we learn about in school. And so Squanto and the Wampanoag people really helped the English settlers grow their crops and learn about what it took to have a successful harvest here in the Northeast, in Massachusetts, where they settled, it's a cold area, and so it's a little bit of a similar climate to, England where they were coming from, but the weather is a lot more extreme in it, that it gets a lot hotter here in the winter, or a lot hotter here in the summer and a lot colder here in the winter. So they didn't really know how to grow the crops, and the Wampanoag people really helped them through that. So Thanksgiving was a celebration of their first successful harvest in collaboration with the indigenous peoples of the area.
Hmm. And this all happened in 1621, and Abraham Lincoln declined, no, not declined. How do you say? Can you help me?
Yeah, declared Thanksgiving as a national holiday in 1863, which was in the middle of the American Civil War. And so Abraham Lincoln decided to declare Thanksgiving a national holiday after Thanksgiving had been celebrated throughout the United States for many years. And so there were a lot of different states and different areas who had different Thanksgiving traditions, but it wasn't a US holiday yet. And so in the middle of the Civil War, in a attempt to establish peace and really get everyone in the Union and the Confederacy to take a step back and think about all of the good things going on and thinking about what they had in common, which was their cultural identity and the roots of America, he
Hmm.
declared Thanksgiving a national holiday to kind of really have like a peaceful day outside Civil War to get people really thinking about what makes America America. And Thanksgiving was one of those foundations.
Yes. 1863 was the year Thanksgiving started as an official holiday in the United States. So, how do you learn about Thanksgiving in school?
Yeah, so a lot of what I just talked about was stuff that we learned about in school. I will say there's a lot that I learned about later in life that I'm really glad I learned about, because there is a lot more to the history of the settlers and the Native Americans than we learned about initially in school. And so I would definitely recommend that people take a minute to familiarize themselves with that history, and really do some reading on that, because there is a very rich history that I think is really important to understand, to also be able to understand like the history of America as a country. But we learned a lot about like the crops and the settlers and all of the struggles that the pilgrims had and the kindness that the indigenous people showed them. And so they really established that holiday to be thankful for not only the food and the successful harvest, but also the friendship that they had made with the indigenous peoples in the area.
There's a movie in the cinemas right now um, called The Killing of the Moonflower, and it's about the indigenous people and the pilgrims, and it's a love story, but it's also very dramatic. So if you're interested in the history, you can definitely go into the cinema and yeah, give yourself a 2 hour break and watch a nice movie or very interesting movie. It's like it gets dramatic because the history is actually very dramatic. So today we're celebrating Thanksgiving in a lot of different ways. Some people go to a Thanksgiving parade and people do something else for the traditional.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different Thanksgiving traditions. So we know like the big meal with all the people that you appreciate, with the turkey and everything is definitely like the common factor in Thanksgiving. But Thanksgiving does look different for every family. So I think one thing that is really cool and I think is funny to see, is there's kind of this like debate between different people in America of, oh, what do you do on Thanksgiving morning? Do you go to watch the Thanksgiving Day parade with your family, hang out on the couch, and watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, or do you go run a 5K? Or are you one of the 5K families? Because one of the most common races in America is the turkey trot, held by the YMCA, and so that's something that runs every year. I grew up going to that sometimes, but I also grew up watching the parade sometimes. And I will say, there's nothing like waking up on Thanksgiving morning and getting ready and helping my mom cook dinner as we start trying to cook dinner at like 7 a.m. to get the turkeys in the oven. But it was always nice to like watch the parade. but we also see lots of other traditions that have come around in recent years. So one of the big ones now is Friendsgiving, which I know Maren mentioned she'd been invited to a Friendsgiving this year. So Friendsgiving, I think, is really special because it's a great way for young people to really appreciate the people outside of their homes. And it's not just young people, it's just become more popular with a lot of young people, because as we see more people going to college and people being away from their families around Thanksgiving, it really is like a way to be thankful for the people around you. And I know when I was in college and when I was away from home, me and my friends would have a Friendsgiving every year, and it was a really nice time to feel like we had a little bit of that like holiday celebration away from home, and really gave me the opportunity to appreciate the people around me. And everyone at a Friendsgiving will bring a dish. And so it was really awesome to also see like what made Thanksgiving to everyone, because I got to try a bunch of different Thanksgiving foods from people who celebrate Thanksgiving different from I do. So it was
Hmm.
really great. And so Friendsgiving's been a really cool tradition that I think we've seen a lot more of in recent years.
Yes, I want to refer also to the Thanksgiving parade. So a lot of cities have Thanksgiving parade, and the biggest or the most popular Thanksgiving parade is in Philadelphia. So if you have time and you're off, take a flight and go to Philadelphia to watch the Thanksgiving parade. Otherwise, obviously, like we in kindly um, ask you to spend Thanksgiving with your host family and join the tradition, because this is the one life opportunity to have like an original Thanksgiving tradition with your American host family. Let's talk a little bit about the food you also mentioned. What is a classic Thanksgiving dinner?
So, a classic Thanksgiving dinner really depends on the family, the area of the US you grew up in, your culture. But what is a classic Thanksgiving dinner to me is like turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce, gravy, stuffing. Like, those are like pretty classic Thanksgiving foods,
Hmm.
which is popular today. But the original Thanksgiving, they were only eating foods that were grown in the harvest from that year that they were saving through winter. So it was a lot of things that were native to the area, like squash and corn and wild turkeys. So
Hmm.
wild turkeys are abundant in the northeastern part of America, which is where the original colonies were, and Plymouth Rock is in Massachusetts, which is in the northeast. And so wild turkeys are really common there. And because turkeys don't produce milk, they don't produce eggs, and they're a lot bigger than chickens, they were a great source of protein to serve at a big feast where they were going to have a lot of people. And so wild turkey was like the main dish during um, Thanksgiving. And so it continues to be a big part of American Thanksgiving today.
Hmm. It's so interesting to me that like this tradition with the turkey stayed for over 400 years and is still like getting carried on. Um, I want to know from your experience, since you grew up in the United States, what was the first memory about Thanksgiving you have?
So, my first memory that I can think of Thanksgiving was probably when I was in either preschool or pre-kindergarten, and we would do these crafts where you would like paint your hand brown and then you would stick it down and it would leave your handprint, and then you would decorate it all like a turkey, where like you'd have like the nose would be your thumb and then all of its feathers would be your other fingers. And so we still have those that my mom puts up in my house that me and my twin sister did when we were in school when we were like 3 or 4, and now we're in our 20s. So they're pretty old, but my mom still hangs them up every year for Thanksgiving. So that was like the first thing I can remember around like Thanksgiving season. But I don't know that I can remember any one Thanksgiving as being like my first Thanksgiving memory, but I do have lots of memories from being a little kid, getting up and watching the Thanksgiving Day parade with my parents. And then I would spend like the morning in the kitchen helping my mom prepare the dinner. And so obviously, when I was a little kid, I couldn't do too much to help, but I was always excited every year because I'd get a little bit more responsibility as I got older. And so it was really special to like spend that time in the kitchen
Hmm.
cooking with my mom or getting up in the morning and spending the morning watching the Thanksgiving Day parade with my dad.
Yes, amazing. Do you have any plans for this year?
So this year for Thanksgiving, I'm really excited. I'm going to be going back to my parents' house. My parents host Thanksgiving with my grandparents and my cousins and my aunt and uncle, and my older sister and my brother-in-law will be there, and my twin sister. And so we're all just going to go back home, and I'm going to help my mom cook, and we're going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And then we'll end up finishing Thanksgiving the same way we always do, which is by kicking off Christmas season. So
Hmm.
a lot of people like to start going into Christmas season right after Halloween, but I am of the firm belief that Christmas season does not start until after Thanksgiving dinner has been cleaned up. And so every year we clean up Thanksgiving dinner, and then we put up our Christmas tree, we put on Christmas pajamas, and we watch Christmas movies. And then,
Wow.
yeah, so that's like one of my favorite things. And Thanksgiving's always been like one of my favorite holidays. So it's always really special to have that time and also get to have like a really nice day cooking and spending time with family and then go right into Christmas season.
Yes. Also, right before, look, Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween. So right before Thanksgiving, it's the Black Friday week. And this is
Yes.
a little reminder to all our care professionals and Apex social team members because this year, like you can use your kudos points for the
Yeah.
Black Friday. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Also, using kudos is a great like way to embrace the Thanksgiving spirit, having an attitude of gratitude, being able to like send people some thanks and tell people that you're appreciating them or you are grateful for them this year. I think that kudos is a great way to do that and also a great way to rack up some points before Black Friday because we know lots of websites and lots of different places are going to have some awesome deals.
That's so true. Yeah, so I can remember when I was living in Massachusetts, in Boston, that I walked with my host child in the fall season a lot in the national parks, and I saw so many turkeys, and it's true, they are like very easy to catch because they are very clumpy and they don't run away.
Yeah,
So it makes
it's
definitely sense.
it's funny. I know. I used to go up to my aunt's who I grew up in Northern Maryland, and my aunt lives in Southern Pennsylvania, and she lives in a super rural area, and we would always see all of the turkeys in her backyard, which actually, if you do see a wild turkey, you should always remember to give wildlife their space and not get too close to them. My twin sister is actually a naturalist, and she works at a nature center where they
Mm.
have wild turkeys, and wild turkeys are actually not very friendly. So you should keep your distance if you see them, but they are abundant in the Northeast.
That's important information. Thanks for sharing. So we kindly encourage you to think about crafting ideas with your host children. Megan, you explained it pretty well with the hand and the turkey and the like the handprint on the paper, and you can decorate the turkey with your host children together. Another way, beautiful way to bond with your host family is asking them ahead, hey, what is your tradition for Thanksgiving? Maybe some families like to leave the town for the long weekend. I know like a lot of families take a vacation break and other families stay home, meet family, invite families or travel to their grandparents. And I think it's a beautiful time to be together in the kitchen, help cooking, become a part of this American traditions. And obviously, you talked already about a gratitude, so we also kindly invite you to write a gratitude list for the things you're grateful for, because Thanksgiving is all about coming together, saying thank you, and be grateful for the
Yeah.
opportunities we have. Yes. I saw your cat in the background. Oi.
This is Odie. He's who I'm grateful for. Hi, buddy. He's the best.
Hi, cutie. Amazing. Megan, do you have any advice for our listeners about Thanksgiving?
The one thing I will send everyone off with is just to try and take a minute throughout the beginning of Thanksgiving season, if you like to say there's a Thanksgiving season, or just on the day of Thanksgiving. I encourage everyone to take a moment of mindfulness to really appreciate the things that you have going on in your life and appreciate where you are in your life right now, whether you're spending Thanksgiving with your host family or your family, whether you're spending it with friends, pets, roommates, whoever you are spending Thanksgiving with, even if it's by yourself. I just encourage you to take a moment and appreciate where you're at in life and the things that you have had that have gotten you where you are, because that's the whole spirit of the day. And practicing mindfulness and gratitude is just so beautiful. And it's a really great day to just take a step back and have a little peaceful moment to appreciate where you are in life.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this
Thank you.
episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
If you got inspired by this episode, please share with your friends and community. Give us a 5-star so others can learn about it, and we look forward to hear your feedback.
Our goal is to empower families and children with special or without special needs. And we are excited to learn more about you and to hear your inspiring stories.